Hey, it's me, the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Hey, check out my new tag team, baby, Monte and the Pharaoh.
Hey, Jimmy, don't forget to tell them about Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast.
Well, you know what, I would, but you already did it.
It's Monte and the Pharaoh.
With Monte and Pharaoh.
The Monte and Pharaoh Show.
Monte and Pharaoh, bro.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
Monte and the Pharaoh. Monte and the Pharaoh.
The Monte and Pharaoh Show.
And you're watching the Monte and Pharaoh Show.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
With Monte and the Pharaoh.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
It's Monte and the Pharaoh.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
Monte and the Pharaoh. Monte and the Pharaoh.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
Monte and Pharaoh.
It's Monte and the Pharaoh.
And Monte and the Pharaoh. Oh, is it Monte and the Pharaoh?
Monte and Pharaoh.
The Monte and the Pharaoh Show.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
To the Monte and the Pharaoh Show. Next. And it's Monte and the Pharaoh, baby.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
With Monte and the Pharaoh.
Monte and the Pharaoh. Oh, what a run. Monte and the Pharaoh. Monte and the Pharaoh. Hey, cut the fucking music. When you want the best in professional wrestling, Long Island, there's only one place you're going to get it, right here.
Monte and the Pharaoh. Now, that's not just the coolest, and that's not just the best. That, my friends, is just incredible.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
You've got the future Hall of Famer, that rocker, Marty Jannetty, and MJ in the house, and I'm sitting here with two more future Hall of Famers, Monte and the Pharaoh. We're doing that stuff, and we're going to rock it.
Straight to the top. We're living this life, not just dreaming it, we're doing it for real. Straight to the top. Working hard every day just to live out that tower.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast out of Indie Music TV, here out of Ronkonkoma, Long Island. At the board is our producer, Matt. Matt, how are you? Good as always. Hey, Matt, check it out. On cable, when I ask that question, you can't hear you because you don't turn on your mic.
What? Whoop, whoop. Weep, womp.
How you doing, Matt? Oh, touche.
Poor guy, what are you doing? Sorry, Matt.
We love Matt here,
Yeah.
man. To the right, to my right is the star of the show, Mr. Jimmy Pharaoh. Jimmy, how are you?
Hello, once again out there in TV land, back again for another fabulous episode. What's up, partner?
Hanging in there, brother, hanging in there.
Yeah, very good.
You know, we've got our special guest coming up, but I want to take a moment to recognize the passing of Mr. Wrestling #2.
Ooh.
You have any opinions on that, my friend?
A giant during the territory days. We're talking early 80s as far as my most vivid memories of Mr. Wrestling 2. I do remember him being at the top of a lot of cards back in those days. Former champion, former tag team champion, dominant in Georgia, dominant in Louisiana. I don't know if you remember the super card from the Superdome that they did, but 2 was right at the top of the card. He was big time. He was big time. Mr. Wrestling 2 was a legend.
We were talking before the show. My memories of Mr. Wrestling 2. Obviously, I watched a lot of Georgia Championship Wrestling like you did, right?
Sure.
And I remember when Vince brought him up to the Northeast, and when he makes his first appearance, I'm all excited because, hey, Mr. Wrestling 2 is going to kick some ass.
Yeah, and guess what?
And Vince just squashed him. And that never made any sense to me, right? So,
no, me neither.
Anyway,
great wrestler, though.
Great wrestler, and he'll be missed. Rest in peace.
Absolutely.
Well done.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank the band that sings the theme song for Monte and the Pharaoh, Aqua Cherry. They sing such songs as Straight to the Top. Also catch their other songs, Yes, Yes, Forever, and Seasons. Aqua Cherry's music can be found on Spotify, iTunes, Reverb Nation, or where music is sold. And on the other half of the show is our other band, Wisteria Hall, led by our own Jimmy Pharaoh, along with his partner, Mr. Bart Griggs. The outro song is In My Dreams.
Yeah.
You could also hear some of their other songs like This Life.
Yeah.
Not Far Behind.
Yeah.
Here Comes the Rain.
Produced by the legendary Eddie Kramer.
And
let's
Kramer
by the way,
let people,
you know,
anyone
by
that
the
doesn't
way,
know who Eddie Kramer
Jimi
is.
Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, by the way. Just that we'd throw that in.
A lot of famous people. Well
Absolutely. Oh, and Kiss, by the way.
He did Kiss? What album
Kiss
did he
Alive.
do? He did Kiss Alive?
He did Kiss Alive, Rock and Roll Over, and Love Gun. Good enough for you?
Good enough for
Good
me.
enough for me. By the way, that's a very interesting story. At the time, Eddie had 2 projects to choose from. You will find this interesting. And he listens to one cassette, and he goes, it's 1975, by the way, and he goes, wow, this is fantastic. Then he listens to the other cassette, and he goes, okay, I could see me helping this. So he calls the first one, and he goes to this newcomer with their debut album. They're shopping it to Eddie because they want Eddie to produce it. And he goes, I'm sorry, but this is the best thing. This is fantastic. I don't need to touch this. It turned out to be the debut album from Boston.
Wow.
The other band was Kiss. And he wound up doing Kiss Alive, and Kiss took off because Kiss was about to get dropped from the label right before Kiss Alive. So Eddie comes in, Kiss Alive, a billion platinum, I Want to Rock and Roll All Night. The rest is history. That Eddie Kramer.
And he did the Love Gun album.
He did Love Gun. Thank
love
you.
Love Gun.
Yeah.
Anyway, you could catch Wisteria Hall's music on
Yeah.
Spotify,
All over the
iTunes,
place.
Reverb Nation, or where music is sold.
Yeah, and we're shooting a video, too, by the way.
Oh, you really?
Yeah, yeah. That's why you couldn't get me on the
Interesting.
phone the other day. I bet you thought I was just drinking.
You're now a movie star also.
What?
You're,
No.
You're on Long
No.
Island #1 pro wrestler broadcast.
Okay,
Probably
fine.
the best pro wrestler
Okay,
broadcast.
that's
You're the star of that show.
fair enough. No,
now
would you-
you're a movie
so
star.
are you. Would
Now
you-
you're a movie star.
Oh, okay. All
Anyway,
right. I'm a movie
Monte
star.
The Pharaoh can be seen on YouTube, Facebook Live on the Monte The Pharaoh page, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Twitch TV, Monte and the Pharaoh, RTF Sports Network every Friday from 6 to 7.
Yeah.
Our guest will be starring on that show tomorrow, and we'll be announcing our guest in a minute.
Yeah.
Early risers can be seen on Saturdays at 6 a.m. to 6:30 on channel 115, and on Tuesdays from 8:30 to 9 p.m. on 115.
Yeah.
Soon to be on CBS for all the haters out there.
What?
Yep.
Wow, the things you unleash on me on the
I
air.
am working it.
Oh,
We've got a
very
couple
good.
of surprises. Stay tuned to us because we got a lot of crazy surprises coming up.
That is true.
Anyway, before we get to our special guest, Jimmy and I would like to take a moment to show the respect for the people who have lost their lives and the people who are on the front lines during this time of crisis. All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Our special guest on tonight's show is the WWE and UWF's own and who we consider a friend, Mr. Sonny Beach. We will get to Sonny Beach right after we take a commercial break.
Be right back.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Monte and the Pharaoh, seen every Thursday, produced out of Indie Music TV in Ronkonkoma, New York. And let's welcome the iconic Mr. Sonny Beach. Sonny, how are you, sir?
Thank you for having me, guys. Monte and the Pharaoh show.
Thank you for
Pharaoh.
coming on. Sonny, haven't seen you since you were at our gimmick table at the big event. What's been going on? How's things holding up?
Stuff going on. I happened to have coronavirus.
What?
I was out of commission for about 3 weeks, and my son Austin had it, my wife had it, Rosie, and I had it, and thank God we're all doing better now. And a lot of our friends, are doing better that had it, and a couple of people we know passed away. So I'm mourning the loss of a couple of dear friends that passed away. And hopefully, we'll all get through this, sooner than later.
Do you have a message out there for people that may think this is fake news and it's not what it is?
It's the real deal, people. I mean, I've never been hit as hard as I was. The high temperatures, fever.
Can you tell people what was it like?
The symptoms. I was quarantined. I went right to the hospital. I wasn't feeling good. My son wasn't feeling good, so we went and we got swabbed and make sure we didn't have the virus, but actually we did. And they sent me home, and I had to stay quarantined. I was in my bedroom for 18 days straight.
Wow.
Didn't leave my bedroom, had my own, private bathroom and stuff, and just stayed in there, and my wife took care of me. And then as soon as I was, getting better, she got sick. So
so your wife actually got it too?
My wife got it too. So me, my son, and my wife, everybody lived in my house.
Oh my God, God bless.
So
how do you think you came in contact with it? And please don't say the big event.
Wait a minute,
Thanks.
hold on. Can I just tell a quick story?
What?
A quick story. We're gonna do the big event, right? And it's the beginning of the Corona.
We
thing,
were debating,
right? And I'm like, I'm really shocked that they're not gonna shut this down.
Yeah.
And my wife goes, she's like, "You son of a bitch, you can't go." So I pick up Rick. Rick's working the gimmick table. And me and Rick are talking about how Tony Atlas was there at the gimmick table. It was a combination.
I could
of
have got it from the big event. I mean, I don't know where I got it from, and that was the last place that I was around a lot of people.
The Saba Simba stick.
So here lies the problem.
Oh man.
So I don't know. I might have just me and Rick text or once a week or whatever.
Okay.
He goes, I'm like, "How you doing?" And he's like, "I got coronavirus." So I go like this. Yeah, right, motherfucker. Sure you do. And he goes, I'm serious. And he sends a picture.
Oh.
My heart dropped into my stomach, and I said to my wife, "Rick's got coronavirus." And she's
I
like,
lost 25 pounds.
Jesus.
Of the coronavirus. The Corona diet, I call it.
Oh, my God.
The Corona diet.
Do you think you really caught it from big event?
I could be honest. I don't know where I caught it from.
Dude, I was washing your hands on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the sanitizer with us. I mean, we were cleaning every time I go to the restroom.
But you were eating them ribs with your hands.
I would,
You were eating those ribs with the hands.
What's he supposed to eat them with?
Yeah, we ate pretty good that weekend. I gotta admit.
Rick, because we're going to do the big event in November, and Rick's going to be at the gimmick table. But Rick says to me, "I hope you get a better place, like a better table section."
We were put in the punish corner at the big event last year.
But I said to Rick, I said, "Thank God, I'm glad. I wanted to be in a corner."
I mean, maybe the virus ended up in that corner, or
maybe,
it
didn't work out so good for him.
I don't know, but. I definitely got it right after the big event. And it could have been my son's friends, because my son was on a show on Bravo Network called Below Deck, Sailing Yacht. Him and 6 of his friends from Long Island went on it. And he had a viewing party over at my house. So we had a bunch of kids, his friends over at the house, about 20 people watching, and we ordered pizza, wings, everything. And 4 of his friends contacted coronavirus too.
Wow.
So it could have been some of his friends that were at the house that brought it over to my home, or it could have been a big event, or it could have been anywhere, maybe out in the street, grocery store. You never know, especially all the people that contacted this virus.
Well, I want you to understand the pressure I'm under. So you have it, right? I find out you have it. So now I'm panicking, right? So now I'm counting 14 days. Then I have a bunch of guys that work for me,
right?
And one of my guys got it.
Oh wow!
So we had to shut it down. I'm the only one working now, but every day I'm counting 14 days, and I'm like, Then I find out one of the customers who visited me in between got it. And I'm like counting 14 days. And I mean, listen, there's people dying out there. And it's not even a nice death, right? It's a suffering, torturous death.
You suffer with it. And all these people on ventilators, I mean, I was praying to God that I wouldn't get put on a ventilator. I mean, I had a heart attack September 30th. I had quadruple bypass surgery. Then I get coronavirus. I mean, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what's next, And
did you feel like you were close to you couldn't breathe? It was that bad?
A couple of times, I got really dehydrated. My body temperature went down to 92 degrees, and I had to go to the hospital when they gave me 4 bags of IV to rehydrate me. That's how sick I was. And I spent 2 nights in Huntington Hospital with the corona. And then, I wouldn't let them put, there was no way I was going to go on a ventilator, because then I knew I was a goner.
Yeah, pretty much, I think.
So I said, take me home. I want to heal at home.
Were they talking about putting you on a ventilator?
They were talking about it. They said, you have trouble breathing? I said, no. And I didn't have any trouble breathing.
Okay.
I just had a temperature. And my one doctor told me the reason that I made it through was because I'm on a blood pressure medicine called losartan. And it fought the virus. So it wouldn't let the virus attach to my, system, I guess. So that was one of the main things that helped me. Plus, I was taking multivitamins and vitamin C, and that helped out a lot too, from what they're telling me.
So they gave the guy who worked for me that drug, the malaria drug.
Right. That supposedly works.
He told me in 24 hours it went away. He still was coughing,
right?
Because he had shit in his lungs still, but. Try not to curse. I'm also with the new station. I'm trying to be more professional. Have you noticed I've been better?
Yeah, you've been pretty fucking good.
There you go.
Sorry.
Good. Well, anyway, long story short, it seemed like it worked. Well, let's talk about something really nice. So how do you like the new studio, Sonny?
Your studio is beautiful. Thank you for having me. It's a great show.
Sure.
And, I see nothing but bigger things from Monte and the Pharaoh going forward. 2020, it's a coronavirus year, but it's also going to be the year of Monte and the Pharaoh. I have big expectations for you guys.
Pressure's
Well,
on.
I appreciate
Now
that.
the pressure's on.
All right, so it's question and answer time, my friend. A few weeks back, Dark Side of the Ring was on. You were one of the main stars.
I don't know about a star, but I had a little bit to do
You were
with
prominent in it,
Nicely
for sure.
featured.
In fact, I was proud of him. Like, that's my boy on TV. That's my boy.
It was a pleasure to do that and try to make Herb look a little bit better than what he was portrayed in all this. But, you can't change history pretty much. I mean, everybody knows that Herb liked to party. And Herb, tried to do the right thing, trying to start his own promotion, which was part of the main thing of the show. And you saw on the show that all the boys that were on the show liked him. Brian Blair.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question. When do you first meet Herb? One. And then two, I never saw, we were talking about this earlier too, I never saw that so many people who never got paid be so happy about it.
He treated everybody well. I mean, there wasn't a bad bone in his body. He never really meant to hurt anybody. I mean, yeah, if he didn't have the money to pay, yeah, he tried to jerk the boys around, with the paydays. If he didn't have the money, or maybe the funds weren't getting transferred, or the sponsorship didn't come in, or the TV syndication money didn't come in. There was I was on both sides of the fence, so I saw, in the office standpoint, I saw what he was going through in the office standpoint, and I also saw, him negotiating deals. I mean, he made $1 million off of Sports Channel America just by, selling the show to Sports Channel America. So he made money, but where did all the money go? That's the $1 million question. Well, but all the boys liked him, and the first time I met Herb was at John Arizzi's convention when he came to New York, when we were all at the autograph show for John Arizzi over at the LaGuardia Hotel many years ago. Bruno Sammartino was there, a special autograph guest. Georgia Metropolis was there from Wrestling Chatterbox, and she's the one that actually put me in touch with Herb as well as Bruno Sammartino.
You had a relationship with Bruno?
I had a little relationship back when Bruno was with WWF, and then when he was with Wrestling Chatterbox, and I had him at a couple of autograph shows we did years ago, him and Captain Lou, and when I was promoting some shows, I always respected Bruno, always, looked up to him, idolized him, growing up. Him, Dusty Rhodes, Harley Race, were three of my biggest, wrestling, heroes growing up.
Billy Jack Haynes, Bob Orton Jr., Brian Blair, Cactus Jack, Colonel De Beers, Dan Spivey, David Sammartino, Don Morocco, Ivan Koloff, Ken Patera, Paul Orndorff, Steve Williams, top homegrown talent like Steve Ray, Louis Spicolli. Of course, there was other legends. Then there's you. So I got to ask you, how persuasive was Herb Abrams when he was first pitching this idea to the wrestlers of this industry? How persuasive was this man?
Herb took all these guys out, wined and dined them, spent money on them, treated them with respect. A lot of promoters don't treat you with respect. You're just a name and a number to them. What can you do for them? They bring you in, they give you a couple of shots, maybe you draw some money if you're a headliner. Back in the territory days, you work big matches like you were talking about in the Superdome with Mr. Wrestling number 2, rest in peace, Johnny Walker. I got to work a lot of shows with Johnny back when we were with Peach State Wrestling, Southern Championship Wrestling with Jerry Blackwell. He used to mentor all us young guys, myself, Ray Lloyd, Glacier, Steve the Brawler Lawler down in Atlanta, R.D. Swain, Ted Oates, Jerry Oates. I mean, all these guys in the locker room, Tony Atlas, Chick Donovan. Wrestling 2 was like the main guy down there. Everybody looked up to him. They bring in Abdullah to work with him, Tony Atlas. I mean, these guys took time out to help these young green guys like myself starting out in the business in the early 80s, and I have nothing but respect for them. Johnny Walker, his wife Olivia used to make the robes for Paul Orndorff, Greg Valentine, Ric Flair. A lot of guys in the business, I mean, there was a huge, respect for the Walker family. John Jr. was a referee. He refereed with us a lot down at Peach State Wrestling, Southern Championship. So I got to spend a lot of time with these guys. And today's the 5th year anniversary of Dusty Rhodes passing. 3 days ago was our 29th year anniversary of Beach Brawl with UWF. So there's a lot of, history going on, a lot of good, a lot of bad. The bad is, some of my heroes are passing away, like Dusty Rhodes. I mean, that really hit home. Now wrestling too, who I had a relationship too with. These guys were heroes to me and mentors and legends growing up, and taking a young green guy and like Bruno and giving you pointers, and he didn't have to do that. This guy already made it in the business. He's established. He didn't have to tell me, oh, Sonny, maybe grab a hold and maybe fire up on him and make your big comeback, and the facial expressions, and really get it emotional about it, and they didn't have to do that, but they did that for me, and I appreciate each and every one of them, what they did for me in my career.
I got to tell you one thing, after getting to know you really do love the business and you love the boys. I can see it in your eyes when when we're at events and you're seeing some of the guys that you haven't seen in a while. You could see it's
a camaraderie. It's like old college
yeah.
buddies. You spend more time on the road with some of the boys than you did with your own family. You're on the road two weeks, back home 2 days, back on the road for 3 weeks, back home for 2 days. You become, that's your wrestling family, and you respect that.
If anyone hasn't noticed, we have the UWF title, right, on the table here.
That was from Blackjack Brawl, the MGM Grand Championship that I beat Dr. Feelgood for, managed by Missy Hyatt. That was back at MGM, the second pay-per-view we did with the UWF. So I wanted to bring that and show you guys that today and show the fans, and the belts are real. They're still here. They're still part of wrestling history, folklore, Evan and the boys from Dark Side of the Ring, they wanted to wear them and take pictures with them and everything. And that's why I bring them to some of these autograph shows we go to, like the main events and stuff like that we do, WrestleCon. So the fans could get to see them, get to wear them, get to touch them. And, I try to give back to the fans, that have done so much for me and my family. That's why I try to, do the right thing for, all the wrestling fans out there.
All right, with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we're back with the star of the show, Mr. Sonny Beach. All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, seen every Thursday, produced out of Indie Music TV in Ronkonkoma, New York. To my right is the star of the show, Mr. Jimmy Pharaoh, and the other star of the show is Mr. Sonny Beach. Sonny, one thing I did not remember or realize was that Andre the Giant wrestled in the UWF. I never remembered that. How did that even happen?
I don't think he ever wrestled with us, but he did a couple of promos with us with Captain Lou when he went out to Reseda, California.
How'd you guys pull that off?
Herb, he dangled a golden carrot in front of him. I mean, Andre was, on the twilight of his career. He had a lot of health issues at the time, and Vince wasn't really using him a lot at that time. He was going back and forth to Japan still for Giant Baba, and he brought him in a couple of times, and he did promos, and the Giants coming, and just having the name Andre the Giant on your card or associated with your promotion. I mean, that was huge back when Herb was starting out. Sports Channel America went crazy for it.
How about you? You must have been like, this is going to happen. This is going to work.
We got Andre? I said, you got to be kidding me. And Herb goes, yep, we got him. And Herb would talk to me, would run ideas off me. I respected Herb. I guess he respected me or my opinion. And I got to be, pretty close with Herb. When he moved back to New York, he opened up an office here in New York, right in the Blimpie headquarters, right next to 7 Penn Plaza, right next to the Madison Square Garden. And he was going to, start UWF up again. And he was going to syndicate shows over in Germany and Austria. And he wanted to do shows in Israel and do some overseas tours, Australia. So he was trying to get his shows back out of the tapes he already had in his can from Sports Channel and all that. He was trying to sell those, a Fury Hour and the pay-per-views, Blackjack Brawl, mix-up tapes, Beach Brawl. And try to get more, footage out there, having guys come in and do promos. Captain Lou was working with us in the office. Johnny Valiant was in the office with myself. And, he has 2 major players that were with Vince, former champions and manager of champions. And, I mean, and he was, really going to try to make it a go. And he was trying to get sponsorship and get syndicated overseas. And it was about to happen when he died.
One statement that I remember from the documentary that made me wonder One wrestler referred, when he was first starting up the idea and making the pitch and starting the promotion, Herb Abrams of the UWF, during the documentary, a wrestler refers to him as, hey, did you hear there's a Mark from the East Coast and he's starting something
You're good,
up?
boy. I was just thinking that.
And I thought I got two things from the statement. He says, hey, to another wrestler amongst the boys, as word was getting out that he was forming the promotion. He goes, hey, this Mark from the East Coast is starting up a new promotion.
And he's got a lot of money, right?
And he's got a lot of money. So two things I thought about at the time that I wanted to ask you. Number one, and this really is important to me, does the term Mark come originally from wrestlers themselves towards... Is this from wrestlers themselves? Did this leak onto the keyboard, people? Does it originate from wrestlers themselves in reference to
people? Can I pull it? I want to pull it back a second. So the Colonel, I guess, I don't really know the guy's name.
Colonel.
Red? Yeah. So he's the one that makes the statement.
Was he the one?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was thinking, when it was first approached to you, are you like, this guy's a Mark, and I'm going to take him for his money?
Right.
Or,
Was he,
like what? Like
leading to
I know you build a relationship with him later, but it's like, what's your thought process?
Was he
when
taken
he was
seriously?
That, I was like, Colonel Red was just an independent wrestler down from South Carolina. I mean, he was a manager, and nobody really knew nothing of him. And I don't know how he even got involved with the UWF. To be honest with you,
he shouldn't even be in the documentary. Who is this guy?
Really? They gave him way too much time.
That's pretty funny.
Well, he had a picture with Jimmy Valiant, so I guess that gave him street credit.
Maybe that gave him street credit. Exactly. The Boogeyman vouched for him, maybe. I don't know. But
we're best friends.
He was only on a couple of shows with, us, with the UWF. And I don't know.
Well, they made it seem on a documentary he's running a whole angle with Herb Abrams. It was like,
they did a little angle, and Herb was up for anything. And if Herb was high or whatever, he probably, loved the idea and went for it. And Herb always wanted to wrestle, but, he was never that big, and he was a little bit bigger than a midget, but a little bit smaller, than a dwarf.
How influential, if any at all, because Mr. McMahon character appears a few years later, but how influential was Herb Abrams making himself the owner, the center of attraction? We're talking years before Mr. McMahon. I can't get over him covered in blood going, I'm going to get you!
I mean, Herb was a fan since growing up. He was a big Bruno fan.
Right.
Bruno idolized Bruno growing up. That's why Bruno was with us.
Yeah.
But Herb wanted to be part of the show. And Herb, whether it was announcing, whether it was ring announcing, whether it was commentating, whether if he had to get in a ring, if he would go up to the ringside, do ringside interviews, you'll see that from the beginning of the UWF with Ludwig Vorga, the Viking. He got up in Tony Helm's face, and Tony Helm, was belittling him on camera. He got up in front of the Power Twins a couple of times. He got up in front of me and Steve Wild Thing Ray a couple of times. Got in between us a couple of times, a little pushing and shoving. He got involved. South Carolina, when we were filming down there, he got involved with Colonel Red and a little angle down there, I think with Ivan Koloff. So he would put himself in different situations that he really shouldn't have been in. And we really didn't plan some of them. It just was spontaneous. It just happened. So, but he always wanted to be part of the show, Herb.
How true is it, his West Coast pitch to Vince McMahon?
That was true. He had a meeting with Vince. He went to the offices and they met, but,
is this while the UWF is going, or is he not started yet?
I think this was right at the infancy of the UWF when it was.
So how was he able to even get in Vince's office then?
I don't know. Herb could, weasel his way in it anywhere. Herb had a gift of gab, and he was likable. That's what people don't understand. He was very likable. He was very charming. He was very funny. He had a great personality. He'd make you laugh.
Can you clear up where his cash came? Was it the clothing business in New York?
He did have a clothing business. I'm a big girl now. He had a big woman's clothing line.
He went to Sports Channel and
he
got $1 million from him.
His wife, Murray Lee, his first wife, I guess, out in California, the Asian wife, as I call her, the Dragon Lady. That's what all the boys used to call her. But
wait a minute, he was having all these parties while he was married?
He had parties.
He was cheating
on
his wife?
Oh, would you?
I guess he was separated at the time, maybe. I don't know for sure. But when I first met him, he was still married.
Okay.
And Murray was his wife at the time when they were still married. And, people said that she had money. People said that he got investors. So there was always like a cloud of secrecy. We never really talked about where his money came from.
Well, you mentioned before the show that he had associates like Lon Trust from the Yankees.
Yeah,
so he knew some
Lon,
pretty powerful people,
he when he came to New York and with Sports Channel and whoever negotiated that deal with him, Ted Felix, Lawn Trust, there was a bunch of people. There was a couple guys in Jersey that he was dealing with that were financial backers and were sponsors and stuff like that with the UWF. So Todd, I forgot his last name, but there was quite a few people that Herb was in bed with on the financial side that I didn't know too much about. I was at dinners with a lot of people, and he would introduce me to people, and I was in their offices and I was around them a lot, but I didn't know to what extent he was in bed with which people.
How many episodes would you tape? Like, so you did 26 episodes, you said, for the first Furies, right?
We usually would shoot like 13 weeks and get those in the can and stuff, like Sports Channel and stuff, and then if they renew, they do another 13 weeks and everything.
Now, did they pay you by match, or they paid you for the taping?
For the season. I think it was you'd have to have a certain amount of tapes in the can, and that's way.
And how much would you get paid for that?
It would depend on if he had a contract with you, or he would pay you per DM, per night or per show or whatever. A lot of people didn't have contracts; they would just come in and work for them. And
it kind of makes sense, right? You come in, you get your shot, you tape your 13 shows, you get paid, and then you go wrestle somewhere else.
Right, and like when Global wanted me and Steve Ray to go down there and work their tag team tournament for Global Championship when they were down in Texas, we went down there. I was under no contract with Herb, but then Herb called up Global and said we were under contract with him to cease and desist and all that stuff, and he had somebody send something when I was never under contract.
So did you call Herb and go, what?
I said, Herb, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I said, I'm an independent contractor. I can work wherever I want. And when I was working with UWF, I worked a few shots with Vince and them, TVs and stuff. And then I went to Japan and, worked for Baba. So I was doing my own thing. I was working up and down the East Coast, Rob Russin, Tommy D, IWA.
But go back,
Bob
though,
Ross.
right? So you're an independent contractor.
Right.
He gives you a cease and desist. Did Global stop you guys then? Said you can't?
Back then, Joe Pedicino was one of the main hosts at Global, and they were on ESPN, and they brought us in for the tag team, and they wanted to do something with us. But then after that, they really couldn't do nothing with us because Herb made a problem for us. And then Steve Ray had a falling out with Herb a little bit, and then he was off TV, and I was like, well, I guess no more Wet and Wild,
Yeah.
And that's why we kind of went separate, at Blackjack Brawl. He did a singles match. I did a singles match with Dr. Feelgood and all that other stuff. So, Herb did whatever Herb wanted to do, and you had creative control when you were with Herb. Me and Mick Foley were talking about this on the other night. We were on a show with John Arizzi, Pro Wrestling Spotlight, with Evan from Dark Side of the Ring, the producer. And we were talking about UWF, and anything went with Herb. You throw some ideas up to him, and he would go with it.
How often did you find his improv card being pulled, though? Because he did, like, for example, with Steve Ray, take a swing at me. The incident where he said, like, how often did he do that? And did that ever step on some of the toes of the wrestlers who you just said had freedom? Did it ever crisscross? Ever?
A little bit, but
okay.
Not to the extent where, it was noticeable.
Okay.
I mean, if you had a booker, a strong booker, and you had your matches planned out, and you had your talents planned out, the shows, I tried to stress that to Herb. Herb, you can't go into a place that we're not on TV, or you're not promoting it, or you're not on radio spots, or doing any television ads, or your show's not playing every week. You got to have that before you go into a territory.
For the TV, the weekly episodic situation, was Blackjack the booker, Blackjack Mulligan, or was that?
Not really. I only saw
was
Blackjack
he more,
a couple of times.
So he was was it more on air? His role?
He was only at a handful of shows that we
Okay.
were on.
Okay.
So, and he didn't really book us. I mean, Herb would book me, or Lenny Doog would book us.
Okay.
Wasn't Blackjack in jail at the time when that whole thing was going on?
What is going on?
That's what they said, yeah.
Wow.
When he was here, when Herb came to New York, I think Blackjack was in jail at that time. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but that's what they said. But he was never really a booker. People that would book, Brian Blair maybe helped out with some of the booking, some of the matches. Lenny Doog would help out, with some of the stuff. It was.
You mentioned 13 episodes per season, let's say, quote unquote, or at a clip.
Right.
Were these all done in like a couple
We
of
did a lot
days
of
spread
TV
out? I
shows
mean, how do you
at
do the
the
13?
Pennsylvania hotel? We would come to New York, and that's where he made his headquarters. He worked
Okay.
out some deal with the Pennsylvania hotel right across from Madison Square Garden.
Okay.
And we would come in and do TV tapings there. And he would always have it was in their grand ballroom. He'd always have 300, 400, 500 people there, and he always put on decent matches there.
Mm-hmm.
But matches, we filmed for maybe 5 hours a night,
Okay.
and we'd try to tape as much as we could. We would do interviews all afternoon. We would do some on location stuff. We would do most of the stuff there in the hotel, a handheld and a boom mic, and do a captain's corner with Captain Lou Albano, or Bruno maybe would interview a Craig DeGeorge. He'd had some Brian Rico and those guys from Sports Channel America.
Did Bruno and Albano take him seriously?
I think they were both there for a payday. I know Lou was there for a payday. I think Bruno would always tell him, you need to do it this way. And he would listen to Bruno. He respected Bruno. And he would listen to him. But Herb did what Herb wanted to do. Herb would tell him, Bruno would tell him how to run shows, how to do TV. He would try to show him things. And would Herb listen? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. We tried to have structure there. But, different guys were coming in every week.
Right.
Maybe he bounced a check to somebody. They're not coming to work for him the next TV taping. Or maybe somebody got hired back to WWF. I know he had Rick Rude. He had Greg Valentine, Honky Tonk Man, at TV tapings at the Pennsylvania Hotel. And then Vince, sent him a cease and desist. He couldn't show them on TV. They were still under contract. All these
So
guys
wait a minute, they were under contract, but they weren't wrestling for the WWE?
Yeah, they came in, and they were filmed in the audience. They were filmed there. They were filmed at John Arizzi's convention.
So there lies my confusion again. At that time, I don't think
people,
there were
give them
guaranteed
paydays.
contracts, right? So weren't you independent contractors?
We were independent contractors, yeah, but when we would get 1099 forms at the end of the year. We had to pay for our own hotels, our own rental cars, our own food.
So how could Vince stop them from wrestling, or you guys?
To be honest with you, I don't know. He's got an ironclad contract or something that guys can't get out of, and even when they're done working with him, they have to wait, 3, 6, a year, whatever it might be, months before they can come work for another promotion, another territory, unless your contract runs out and you don't renew it. Like some of the guys in AEW, and maybe he gave them a granted them a
that's
release.
it's always. I think we've had a strong stance that we feel that as an independent contractor,
you should be able to work wherever you want.
But you're also responsible to take care of your own health insurance and your own life. But you should be able to do whatever you want.
Right.
Again, the punishment may be you can't wrestle in the WWE anymore. I'm not going to use you anymore because you're not listening to me. That's his right.
That's probably what
But not
happened.
back then.
Vince was probably like, "Hey, go ahead. You want to do that? Guess what? You'll never come back here again." And I'm pretty consistent historically, so if you really want to roll the dice, good luck to you.
But everybody, all the big time talent knew, there was nowhere else to go.
Right.
Right. Vince, was buying WCW, or he was doing, the head up wars with them. Everybody knew it was inevitable. He brought up all the stars from all of the territories. So, where are you going to go other than Vince? Go to Japan?
Describe the UWF locker room feel during its run.
Anything went. It was like one big party. It was like, like you're joking around. I mean, it was a great atmosphere. I mean, there was a lot of camaraderie, all the boys having fun, joking around. It wasn't like a tight, all business,
But I mean, did a guy like Rude, who was coming off a good amount? Well, I don't know if Rude, coming off a pretty high level WWE career. Does he come in feeling like he's special? Like, back out, I'm Rick Rude.
Rick Rude. I mean, Sid. He came and worked. I mean, and this was, after, I guess he was champion with Vince and everything.
So they were all right.
So he had the talent there to really make an impact on the wrestling business, but he didn't have the financial backing. And me and all the boys talk about it. Me and Mick Foley, me and John Arizzi talk about it. Brian Blair. If he would have put his money and invested in, maybe somebody putting together a business plan. Run it like a business, not like a party.
This reminds me of another place we were just talking about.
Right.
You need writers, you need producers, you need quality people. So Lenny Douge, am I saying his last name?
Lenny Douge.
Lenny Douge.
D-U-G-E.
Very emotional during this.
Lenny and her were best friends. I mean, without Lenny, UWF would have fell apart.
Well, what was his role actually? And
Lenny
did he
worked
write
for NBC Studios.
Okay.
He was a film and edit guy. He was with The Tonight Show, Johnny Carson, Jay Leno. He worked for them for like 26 years or something like that.
And he loved wrestling.
Loved wrestling, big fan.
Yeah.
He knew how the production end of it. So without the production end of it, he would have never been on Sports Channel America, and he needed Lenny to book the shows, book the cameramen, book the lighting companies, book the riggers, and everybody else to do all that stuff.
So again, we talked about, maybe not getting paid, but he took care of you guys, and it was a good time. Now, this guy Lenny, he's got a good reputation. He probably brings in people he knows, cameramen. Hey, I need you guys. And then all of a sudden, Abrams is stiffing these guys. How does Lenny have this close relationship, feel? I thought that was amazing that
Probably
he cared
difficult.
so much about the guy, but that guy was stiffing his own people.
He was stiffing people, and then, Lenny had a little falling out with him, too. He didn't like Herb's lifestyle, the getting high, doing drugs, and, putting his good name on the line, pretty much, with all the people that he dealt with. You deal with, 26 years at NBC, the best of the best out in Hollywood and California, and anywhere, New York, you come to New York, the production people here, like Silver Cup Studios or some of these places where you could get the cameras or the rigging or the lighting or, the hang up around the ring and the effects or whatever it might be. He knew all those people and he had relationships with people. So that's what he brought to the table. And then when Herb started sniffing people, it started making him look bad. And then he told people, don't take a check, get paid before, make sure the money clears. He would tell them, I'm not responsible. And then when Herb was partying too much, he tried to get him into rehab a few times, but Herb refused. And then he, like he said on the show, the worst thing Abrams ever did to him was die. And that really hit home with me because I knew what type of relationship they had and how good of a friendship they had. And then Steve Ray, another one, my old partner, went wild. Herb believed in him so much. Herb believed in Steve Ray more than Steve Ray believed in himself. And he gave him a chance. Steve Ray started out in Kansas City with, Bob Geigel in the Kansas City territory. Bulldog Bob Brown was promoting out there. Bob Geigel. Sonny Myers helped train him. So he was only like a local guy out in Kansas City and then sent some promo pictures to Herb. Herb took a liking to him and gave him a gimmick. Wild Thing Steve Ray. And he had charisma, and he, looked like one of the rockers, like a Shawn Michaels or a Marty Jannetty. So that was his niche. And Herb was trying to build stars. I tried to use myself, the Power Twins, Steve Ray, Louis Spicoli, before he was Rad Radford with the WWF. So there was a lot of guys that he was trying to take talent and build. Salvatore Sincere, Tom Brandy, a lot of up-and-coming guys that really could have, did big things in the business.
All right, I want to veer off UWF for a minute. I want to talk about my favorite clip of the show.
Oh,
all right, the most annoying pro wrestling commentary or fan.
I got to take
I was
a
actually going to have Mike Messier, friend of the show, call in, but I'm having problems getting him call in.
Okay.
Not his issue, our issue.
Okay.
All right, Matt, we go into the video?
No.
All right, so the idea behind the most annoying pro wrestling fan is
for me to get sick.
I'm going to read a statement, and I'm going to ask you, Sonny, to weigh in, and I'm going to ask the Pharaoh to weigh in and give your opinion, and then we'll see what hits home. WWE Hall of Famer Tammy Stitch, better known as Sonny, is set to bank up to $280,000 for her adult website.
What?
The 47-year-old was a huge hit with wrestling fans, particularly men, during the 1990s, and was switched to starring in porn movies after stepping away from the ring. But in more recent years, she's had a fallen foul of law and was only released from prison about a year ago in February. This February, I'm sorry. On parole violations and relating guilty plans and multiple drunk driving cases.
Okay.
Tammy's tweet.
Not
tweet. Sorry.
Tammy's what?
She says, in 1996, I was the most downloaded celebrity on AOL.
True.
24 years later, in 2020, my goal is to be the % content creator on @OnlyFans.
Okay.
In just 96 hours of having my page up, I'm in the top 1.8% of all creators. Haters, this 47-year-old washed up past her prime biatch is on fire. Sonny, you want to chime in?
Hey, I wish her all the best. I mean, she's been on top, and you go up, you go down in this business, and she has some addiction problems and stuff, and I wish her all the best. Been praying for her. I knew her back when she broke into the business with Chris Candido. She had a great run with the WWF, and she's continuing to make money. So that's the name of the game in the wrestling business: make money, get yourself over. And she's been over, and she's still over. So like she says, haters, check her out. But she's always made money, and some of the stuff she does, maybe I don't agree with personally, but she's got to do what's best for Tammy. So I wish her well in all her endeavors, and hopefully she'll get everything right this time.
Or you could have just said, I'm a photographer.
I'm a photographer.
Pharaoh, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I'm only confused about one thing about this particular weekly episode of The Most Annoying Wrestling Expert. There's nothing here that annoys me. She didn't say one thing here that annoys me.
I'm not saying
number
it's
one
true.
most downloaded celebrity. I agree. I remember that. I remember 1996. 24 years later. Yeah, her goal is to still kick ass, and anybody who doesn't like her can go suck it. I have no problem with this whatsoever. She still rocks in my book. So I don't know. Has she been saying other things? I'm sorry. We'll get to that when we see her. Hey, Sonny.
Maybe one day we'll have her in studio. Anyway, love having that clip, and thank you, Sonny Beach, and thank you, Jimmy Farrell, for weighing in. With that, we're going to take a quick commercial break and get back to the star of the show, Sonny Beach, and talk a little more UWF and Herb Abrams. Welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, seen every Thursday, produced out of Indie Music TV in Ronkonkoma, New York. And we're with our special guest, WWE and UWF superstar, Mr. Sonny Beach.
Man, I can't believe the studio, how nice it is.
Spacious.
Thank you.
I mean,
It's like a real television
got a lot of room on the
broadcast.
couch. I mean, this is great.
Got that guy going, yo, bro. Hold on, man. My equipment's not working. All right, go ahead. Pharaoh.
Smoke him if you got him. All right, anyway. So, once upon a time, Herb Abrams was given about $1 million, and, clearly it did not. This is Mike's wording. I love how he's kind of so brutal. Clearly it did not work out. But do you feel that he used his money wisely? And I have to add to it, do you feel the fact that he was he a fan first? Before
Wait
he
a
was
minute, are you saying I wrote that? You're asking the question. I mean, it's stupid.
Well, I like
Did he use his money wisely? I don't know why you would ask that,
I
but
think
go
Herb
ahead.
was a fan first. He was a big fan.
Wait a minute! You wrote that! Don't you throw me under the bus!
All right, go
anyway,
ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, honestly though, do you think that his love for the business was he more of a fan than a businessman during this run?
I think he was. He had a goal. He wanted to compete with Vince. And instead of just doing his own thing, which he should have done, and he should have had a business plan together. This is how I want to do this. He had all the talent. It wasn't a talent that made him bad. He squandered the money somehow, but it was expensive. Production equipment, renting, studios, putting tapes in a can. I mean, paying all the wrestlers. I mean, guys aren't cheap, and like Colonel Red said, there's a markup in New York. Everybody tries to get their best deal out of the promoter. They try to work the promoters. The promoters are trying to work the boys. It's one big work. That's why they call wrestling business a work. So who's getting 5,000 a show? Who's getting 10,000 a show? Who's getting 1,000? Who's getting 500? That $1 million will go pretty quick. If you want 13 weeks in the can, it's going to cost a lot more than $1 million. Trust me.
Was his hatred for Vince McMahon real over the West Coast rejection, and did that play in it all?
I think he always respected Vince. Believe it or not, he always wanted to be like a Vince. But
did he hate Vince for the rejection?
I think he hated him for the rejection. I mean, he took it really personal, which I would have taken it personal too.
Yeah,
but Vince McMahon already had his empire built. you're not coming to offering Vince, like you just found a gold mine somewhere that he never touched, a new vein of gold or something, or you're mining out in Nevada.
Yeah, it's like what's in it for me?
What's in it for me?
It wasn't like he was struggling on the West Coast that he needed representation.
He wasn't struggling on the West Coast.
Yeah.
I mean, he would sell out everywhere on the West Coast. I was on plenty of shows out there.
Do you feel that at least he garnered enough respect from Vince McMahon that Vince perhaps paid some attention to him during the history
Vince
of
wanted
UWF?
to probably find out what type of guy he was. That's why he probably set up a meeting with him, because he goes, here's this upstart guy from California trying to start a promotion. I don't know if it was before he got Andre or after he got Andre to come out and Rosita, but he did have the meeting. I don't know the timeline on the meeting that he did have with him, but after he was rejected, he wanted to go full force after Vince, which he should have just worried about, working with Sports Channel America and putting good quality tapes and shows out there. Because if you would have put a good product out there, you would have got renewed. Your season would have got renewed. They would have ordered more tapes or another season of UWF, more episodes. So that's what you really wanted. Put together some shows, some overseas shows, and then you're making money, on the live house shows. Maybe merchandise. They had the 800 number for a while, 1-800-UWF, whatever. They had that. The Herbie cookies.
The what?
What? Herbie
hey,
cookies. I wanted to bring Monte The Pharaoh a little gift for their new studio, so I bought him a few Herbie cookies.
You brought us Herbie cookies. The Herbie cookies were made out of from Casey Cakes. Is that right?
Northport Main Street,
Nice.
Northport, Long Island. Casey Cakes. Give her a big shout out.
She's located at 256 Main Street in Northport.
Sweet. That's it.
Again, I'm pretty sure my wife goes there often. But if I get show these on the camera, I think they're awesome. Hold on. So
I can't believe we have a real life Herbie
nicely
cookie.
wrapped. You've got the
That's the Herb Abrams
What is
Mr.
that?
Electricity cookie.
the Mr. Electricity cookie,
Right.
right?
Gotta zoom in on that.
Wait a
one.
minute. Where's the yellow boots?
They're coming.
They're coming.
Okay,
They're
okay,
coming.
Okay.
Then you've got Herb with Bruno, I think, right?
That's them commentating.
Yeah.
That's one of the most
How awesome is
iconic
that?
duos in wrestling history right there.
And then you've got the boots.
That's the
Herb boots.
UWF yellow boots that he wore at
By the way,
Blackjack
that
Brawl.
Mick Foley story is hilarious. That he tells Mick that wait till the crowd sees this.
Yeah, he brought
my
Mick up to his suite over at MGM Grand, and he showed him his ostrich skin yellow boots.
He
that
thought this was going to be the center
that
of.
was the center of attention that he made.
Oh boy.
Then you've got the Mick Foley Herbie cookie.
That's the Mick Foley UWF cookie.
Oh,
And
have a
then
nice day.
Mick Foley just sent me some cookies that we just opened up on the Pro Wrestling Spotlight show, and we had some of those.
By the way, I'm the worst of them, like covering the cookies as I'm watching. The UWF belt Herbie cookie. I don't even think I want to eat these. I don't think it's they're too nice to eat.
You guys can break one
put the
open
belt
and
with the belt.
eat whatever one you want.
And here's probably the most important Herbie cookie, the Sunny Beach Herbie cookie. That's my favorite.
Look at that.
Now I could say, "Eat me."
Oh, Jesus Christ. Hello.
That won't need a hunk, by the way.
All right. Explain this
Leave
one.
that for Sonny.
Sonny, explain this one for me.
Yes.
Herb, what's the deal with the whole lipstick and perfume thing?
What?
He had, I don't know if it was a fetish or if he was just like, he had some type of obsession with lipstick and perfume. If you went to a restaurant and somebody was wearing perfume, he wouldn't want to go there. He would ask to be moved at his table. Same thing with lipstick. He wouldn't want anybody coming out with lipstick. He would ask my wife, please don't wear lipstick if we're going out for dinner or something.
Really?
Or perfume, because something
Wait a
triggered
minute.
him off.
So he would say to your wife, not even go through you, just say, hey, please don't wear lipstick?
Yeah, my wife and my whole family was friends with Herb. He would be at my house for dinners and and all that, and holidays, whatever, birthday parties. So, make a long story short, one Christmas Eve, I had Herb and the Power Twins and a bunch of people over at my house for dinner, Christmas Eve. So they all came over.
Where were you living at the time? Were
I was
you here
living
in
in
New York?
Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, you're in Brooklyn,
off
okay.
of Humboldt Street over there in
Yep.
Williamsburg. So we have a house there, and we were living there at the time when I first got married. So everybody came over, and Herb came, and the Power Twins brought it. One of them, Larry, I think, brought a date. And Herb came in. He had like a $3,000 cashmere pea coat that he was wearing. Herb always dressed very nice, and he always had nice clothes and suits and stuff. So, make a long story short, he put his jacket on top of one of the girls' jackets there, and it had perfume on it. So Herb lost his mind, and the girl was wearing lipstick, so he made her take the lipstick off with a napkin. So, he's quirky about that. He had his own little quirks and, whatever it was. So out of respect for Herb, we'd listen to him, and I don't know if, maybe some of the hookers tied him down and covered him with lipstick and perfume. I don't know, but he was deathly afraid of it. It was like, kryptonite to Superman. He didn't want lipstick or perfume around him. Which all the boys knew that and respected that. But that was the Herb story. And when Christmas Eve came and left, he left his jacket there, $3,000 jacket. He goes, keep it, throw it out, donate it to Goodwill. He goes, I don't want it, I can't wear it.
Wow.
I said, well, get it dry cleaned. Nope, I don't want it. So he left his jacket, and my wife's cousin, Michael Cicero, got the jacket.
Nice.
We took it to dry cleaner, cleaned it, fit him perfectly. So he got a $3,000 jacket for free that Christmas.
When Herb was
left in the cold with no jacket.
That's quite a fetish, man. That's a very costly fetish going on there.
Yeah, very costly. But, it was funny like that, and, certain restaurants, we'd go to, it was funny, he'd make jokes, or if there was lipstick on a glass, he wouldn't drink, from it, he'd see lipstick on a glass. We were at...
I'll be honest, if I saw lipstick on a glass either, I think I'd drink off of
one of his... I was eating at his house for one of the Jewish, Passover or something, one of the holidays. I went to Herb's mother's house. They lived in Little Neck, New York, Great Neck, New York, off of Little Neck Parkway. So we went over there, and they had some type of dessert. I think it was compote or something. It was red, and it was on a napkin, and Herb thought it was lipstick. He lost his mind. Over the holiday, he went to his room, and it was like, had to shower and come back out. It was a great thing. And as Herb's mother went out there, come on, Herb, it was just all Jell-O or gelatin. No, it was lipstick, and he was freaking out over it. He was in his room for like 2 hours, wouldn't come out for the holiday.
Wow. When he was making himself the star,
right?
What were the wrestlers' reactions? Did anybody did you guys talk amongst each other? Go,
what
is he doing? Or did anyone try to stop him?
It was a wrestling show, not a comedy show. Guys. Some of the old, like Bruno would get upset. Captain Lou, John Tolis. Tolis was rip him a new ass. He would curse at Herb. What the hell are you doing? This is wrestling. We're here to wrestle. We're not here to watch your bullshit. And some of the guys would get really offended by it.
Was Herb Abrams ahead of his time?
I think he was to a certain degree.
Uh-huh.
I
feel he was too.
I think some of the stuff that Vince was doing, Herb did it before him.
Mm-hmm.
But Vince always wanted to be a wrestler. But his father didn't let him. His father made him be a commentator first. All those years when he was doing the commentary. And then Vince started working out. And then Vince started getting huge. And then Vince started going in the ring. And then his son Shane was in the ring. And then his daughter Stephanie was in the ring. And then his wife even was in the ring. So, the whole family. And he put his time in Vince, and he could do whatever he wants. If anybody could get in the ring, it should be the McMahons.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They paid their time. They paid their dues. They made wrestling what it is today. And I take my hat off to them. Like Vince McMahon or not, you got to respect him.
Absolutely.
I think that may be the difference, right? You're a very successful business owner. Vince McMahon, very successful business owner.
Okay.
Herb Abrams seemed like he wanted to be one of the boys more than he wanted to be a business owner, and that might have been the demise of UWF.
Well, you see the yellow boots. He wanted to be one of all the boys used to wear cowboy boots out. You see Hogan with his boots and the jeans, and and everybody, Jake the Snake. I mean, everybody had cowboy boots at the time. Back in the late '80s, mid '80s, early '90s, Dusty, Magnum TA. Everybody wearing boots. Herb got his own custom-made yellow ostrich, boots, and he had UWF put on them for Blackjack Brawl. And then he had the yellow blazer, and he made himself, into a character, and it is what it is, and Herb wanted to be somebody, and he became somebody.
He did.
Maybe not in this lifetime, when he was alive, but in his death, look.
It's been growing ever since.
Dark Side of the Ring. He's like a cult hero.
Right.
He was always good to me and my family. He was good to a lot of the boys. Gave them first-class accommodations. We weren't staying at the Motel 6s. We were staying at the Hiltons or the Hyatts or, the nice hotels. MGM Grand, you have your own suite. We weren't down in the, Howard Johnson's or, nothing wrong with Howard Johnson's or any of these hotels. I stayed at them all, in my lifetime. But he would have us in our own rooms. Guys would be sharing rooms. Everybody would have their own room. Everybody would have transportation to the arena and back. with limo transportation, town car, a bus, maybe a shuttle bus. He made sure everybody was taken care of. And you could ask any one of the boys that. Sometimes their checks would bounce. Sometimes the boys had more hindsight, and they would go to the check cashing place like myself at Blackjack Brawl and cash my check before I came back to New York from Las Vegas. And I got paid. A lot of guys didn't get paid. The Power Twins got paid because they knew where the check cashing was. A couple other boys got paid out there. So, the smart guys, and he took care of guys. It might have taken him a while, but one way or the other, he would take care of the boys.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then I want to get into the demise of Herb Abrams. I also want to give, again, a shout-out to Casey's Cake, Custom Cakery, 256 Main Street in Northport with these wonderful, wonderful Herbie cookies. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte and the Pharaoh, seen every Thursday, produced out of Indie Music Television in Ronkonkoma, New York. I want to remind people, next Thursday, June 18th, it'll be M&P together discussing the week's action in wrestling and wrestling news. And then on June 25th, we've got Hall of Famer Tito Santana in studio,
Arriba.
sitting where Sunny Beach is. Arriba. And we'll be covering the career of Tito Santana. Tino was with us once before.
Another great guy.
He is a great guy.
Legend.
And then we may have a very special surprise to announce a fan. So hang in there. We're not going to announce it yet, but it could be a very special
Quit
surprise.
teasing me.
I'm not.
Fine. Go on.
I will not reveal my sources.
All
right, what do you got there, Pharaoh?
Well, I wanted to ask you, we both grew up watching Vince McMahon as an announcer originally, and his partner back in those days was Bruno Sammartino.
Right.
I noticed when I watched the UWF, Bruno, of course, being the color commentator, he seems so much more relaxed. Was Bruno happy at UWF, and how much interaction did you have with Bruno in general at the tapings?
I think he was happy. I think Bruno was trying to give back at that time to, help out. Help a new promotion start out. And at that time, him and Vince had a little bit of a falling out, with the steroids and stuff, with the industry, and with I don't know if his son David had anything to do with it, but I think Bruno always wanted his son David to follow in his footsteps, and maybe he didn't want him to follow in his footsteps, but David wanted to, and Vince gave him a little bit of a push, but not a big push, back starting out. And they tagged, him and Bruno together a few times. And I think he was trying to get David into, with the UWF and, trying to get him back into wrestling or some of that stuff too. But
what's your thoughts on David, just real quick?
He was a nice guy too. I had a great relationship.
Do you
with
feel
David.
he could have gone further in the business, or was
I
it
think
his
he could have,
attitude?
but I don't know if he really wanted to. I mean, David's his own man, and David had to make what decisions he wanted for him and his family.
Mm-hmm.
He was living in Atlanta, Georgia, and he was, doing personal training and other stuff down there. And I don't know if it was his dream to wrestle or if it was his father's dream to wrestle, or, I never really, ask him really about it. But
Did Herb ever ask Bruno to get in the ring? To return to the ring?
I think Bruno was already past his prime, and I don't think he would have.
Interesting, okay.
I don't think he wanted to get back in the ring.
So it's not like Ric Flair who would get in the ring right now?
No, Bruno...
Just checking. He would! Ric Flair would get in the ring right now.
If Bruno wanted to, Bruno was in great shape till the day he died.
Right.
He would work out every day. I mean, Bruno was in
still big boy.
Great physical shape. I mean, and that's another thing I respected about him, and in his 60s, he still had that big barrel chest and big arms and
bear strength,
big legs. I mean, he was in great shape. Look at him when he was commentating. He looked like he could still wrestle. When he was with.
Is he the greatest pro wrestler of all time, Bruno Sammartino? I know that's a
one
tough.
of them.
Okay.
I definitely, I think Bruno was one of the greatest showmen. Ric Flair, Harley Race, Jack Briscoe. Dusty Rhodes.
Can we get Terry Funk maybe in
Terry
there?
Funk, another one. Dory Funk.
Dory.
The Briscoe brothers, they were huge down in Florida.
See, it's funny.
Stan
I think
Hansen.
about when people, we've discussed this before, and I'm a WWE guy, so I
So am
when I
I,
see
but-
when some of these guys talk about it, they're like,
Oh, those names though.
I think maybe it was even Santana when he was talking about Savage when he first started wrestling Savage. Savage was coming from the South, and he's like, "This is not how we do it here in the Northeast. Northeast is punching, kicking, ripping each other's faces off.
Distinctively
not
different.
This,
even then, sure.
Catch can wrestling.
Yeah, sure.
And obviously, Harley Race was a great wrestler, but I never got it. Like I never got it. I don't know why. Dory Funk Jr. never got it. Got Terry Funk. Got Terry Funk. I just never got it. That's all. I just like
Jack
I don't know.
Briscoe, another guy.
Right.
All
Understood.
These guys, they're all out of the '60s. Black trunks, black boots. They're telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
Dory Funk. You go an hour. I used to see Jack and Briscoe and Dory Funk. It was like. Just it was like a flowing match, like move after move after move, and it was just flowing, and it was just, it was like, spinning toe hold, get back up, and then Jack tried to put him in a figure four, and then a little small package, and then he'd kick out. And there wasn't 100 false finishes, like they are today.
Right. Today's a total different act.
Different pace.
Every high spot's a finish. I'm like, what's going on? I'm back and forth, back high flying. I mean, how many moonsaults and stuff off the ring, off the top rope can you do without hurting somebody or pinning somebody? And Stan Hansen told me, he goes, you won't see me flying off that top rope. He goes,
No.
I'm staying down on the ground. I'm low gravity guy. He goes, more chances you take of getting hurt when you're getting off your feet and getting up in the air. He goes,
sure.
You get hurt bad.
You know what though? Even by the Attitude Era, those guys were already thumbing their nose at that generation because Scott Hall on our show referred to Dory Funk as Bory Funk.
Right. Yeah.
Bory Funk.
Right, yeah.
Like
boring. Yeah.
So I guess it's really one man's garbage is another man's gold when it comes to this stuff. I always felt that Briscoe, Funk Jr., Vern Gagne, Lou Thez, they're technicians. They weren't there for their...
Buddy Rogers. I mean, there's a handful of guys.
But he had personality, though, Buddy Rogers.
Of course.
Some of these guys were just strictly there because they were technicians.
John Arizzi brought all these people together at his conventions. He brought Buddy Rogers. He brought Lou Thez, Ric Flair...
How much did that
Terry
type of
Funk.
convention
He had
cost?
all
Man,
these
look at Mike immediately.
superstar
Let me
Billy
see.
Graham, Moolah.
That's like $1 million in itself.
I mean, all these people he had at his conventions, John Arizzi. And this is when Herb came in. Herb, was schmoozing with all these people. And then, John Tolis. And then, they're all talking. And then the Cauliflower Alleys and all these other, Hall of Fames. They have the Hall of Fame down in Texas now. They used to have it up in Amsterdam, New York and stuff. Supposedly they're bringing it back to New York. I'm not sure what's going on, but, all these things. And what really gets me is all the boys... they talk about unions and nobody has pensions, nobody has insurance. A good friend of mine I wrestled with down in Peach State Wrestling and Southern Championship and All Japan Pro Wrestling, Joel Deaton, Outlaw Joel Deaton. He had a stroke a few months back. He doesn't have any money now left to pay for his medical bills. Jerry Gray, another hand out of Tampa, he championship wrestling from Florida guy. He's had cancer. And I see all these GoFundMe pages. Chris Jericho, God bless him. He helps so many people out, donating. And a lot of times people don't even know he's donating to them.
I think guys like Jericho and Cena realize they're as rich as they are because of these
some
other
of these guys
wrestlers.
paved the way. There's no insurances, there's no health care. There's no, when you get old and you're going through 3 or 4 divorces and marriages and you made your top money and then you can't wrestle anymore because you're in your 60s or 70s. What do? You go to these fan fest. You try to make a couple of bucks selling your pictures or gimmicks. I feel sorry for a lot of the boys when I see them having to struggle out there. And thank God I was smart enough and I had hindsight to start my own business when I saw, wrestling wasn't going to pay the bills, after I left Vince and, UWF and everything. Yeah, I paid the bills for a few years, but I wasn't a top guy. Thank God I was always working and I got to make money in the business. I didn't lose money by no means. When I was first starting out, I was sleeping in my car. I couldn't afford a hotel, or 3 or 4 of us would share a hotel.
Well, I think last time you were on,
your dues.
you said you were making like $5,000 a week there or something, right?
Yeah, when I left Vince, I was making big money because I was on the Hogan cards and stuff like that.
That's big money tickets.
I saved my money.
Yeah.
You wrestle in Madison Square Garden one night, you're out in Denver Arena the next night, Rosemont Horizon, you're down in the Tampa Dome, or whatever, Sun Dome in Tampa, Miami Auditorium.
All right, so we got about 5 minutes left. I'm going to ask you one question about Abrams. One question, and then I'll leave it to Pharaoh to finish it up.
Sure.
First for you, as a wrestler, who did you want headlining the card because you knew you were going to draw bigger money?
UWF or WWF?
Both.
When I was with Vince, it was always a Hogan card. You were always guaranteed a sellout with Hogan, Macho Man, Ultimate Warrior, Andre.
So those are the guys.
Those 4 guys drew a lot of money. Now, if it was an Abrams card, you wanted Dr. Death, Steve Williams, maybe Bam Bam Bigelow, some of the legends, maybe Ivan Koloff or Bob Backlund when they were,
right.
on the cards. When Sid came in, Danny Spivey. There was a lot of guys like that. Even, Warlord Barbarian. Back when Demolition was on top, even Bret Hart and Neidhart, and Bulldogs. There was always like a B, and C card when I was with Vince. They were running 2 main events a night at some of these big, crisscrossing the back. We were on fire back in the 80s. When No Holds Barred came out, I mean, we were running, across the country. We'd even have shows going to the colleges, campuses, high schools, National Guard armories. We had so many guys working.
You used to do 2 shots, too, on weekends,
we would do
right?
double shots sometimes, afternoon matinee show and an evening show.
How fun is that, man?
It was great. I mean, it was a great time to be in the business, and especially for me, wrestling with all my heroes and stuff.
How great
like
is
on the car
that?
with Andre and Dusty and, seeing all these guys, Bill Eadie, Mass Superstar, and then Demolition. And,
unbelievable.
All these guys I looked up to. Tony Atlas, back in Georgia Championship, wrestling too. I mean, I got to live, and I got to wrestle some of the biggest names in the business. I wrestled Bruiser Brody. I wrestled Abdullah the Butcher, Kamala.
Did you get checked after you wrestled Abdullah? Just checking.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I didn't really, juice and all that. Like all the.
Got to watch out for those divots.
You didn't have to juice for Abdullah.
But sometimes you had to. But and you did get paid extra a lot of times. It was just for the fans to make the match believable if you were doing an angle or something like that. But nowadays, since wrestling's a work and everybody knows it and it's been exposed a million times, we could talk about marks and about works and kayfabe.
Yeah.
There's no more kayfabe.
No, there isn't.
All
right, my final question to you: What is the true story to the demise of Herb Abrams? Right. So Dark Side of the Ring says, "Hey, we think he's still alive." They left that. They said that he was covered in oil and cocaine. They said that he was molested. Somebody else said he was molested by police officers. Not a good time to mention this right now, but I'm just saying what they said.
I don't think any of that happened. The molestation, that definitely didn't happen.
So what do you believe happened?
I think Herb had an underlying health issue. I think he had an enlarged heart or some type of heart disease. And I think that cocaine just attributed to that coming out more. He had a massive heart attack, and that's how he died. Maybe it was a lot of cocaine in his body, in his system, and he probably didn't sleep for 2 or 3 days. The last time I saw Herb Abrams was that Sunday. He was at my house. He had dinner with us before he came back to his house in Great Neck, before he went to his offices in the city that Monday and Tuesday. I think he passed away Tuesday going into Wednesday morning overnight, but I didn't see him after, he left my house on that Sunday. Definitely know he's dead because I was at the funeral and I helped bury him. So I was one of the pallbearers, and I definitely went out to the cemetery and with his family and went back to their house and sat Shiva and stuff with his family. And, he's definitely not alive. He's definitely not an informant. He's definitely not, out there because he definitely would have surfaced some way, somehow. The real story about Herb Abrams, my story, Rick Allen's story, Sonny Beach story, he always treated me good with respect, treated my family well, treated most of the boys well. A couple guys didn't get paid here and there. Maybe some of the girls didn't get paid here and there. But was he a mean-spirited person? No. He didn't have a mean bone in his body. Was he a fun guy to be around? Yes. Did the drugs and alcohol maybe contribute to his demise in his business and the way he ran things? Yes. But Herb Abrams was a good guy. He was my friend. And that's the way I want to remember him. A lot of boys will tell you the same thing. You ask Mick Foley, you ask John Arizzi, you ask George Napolitano. They all got good things to say about him. And they'll all tell you the bad things too. But deep down, everybody likes Herb. And why do you think so many guys work for him? Because he had that personality. He was believable. You want to know why people wanted to get with Herb? Because they liked him. And that's the main, story about Herb. Yes, he passed doing things like Brian Blair said. He went out doing two things he loved, cocaine and hookers.
Yeah.
And like Mick Foley said, where would he be today? Probably doing time. He'd probably be in jail.
Right.
But everybody liked him. And everybody, the Dark Side of the Ring was a tribute to Herb Abrams and what he tried to accomplish in his business. I try to look at the good, and I try to find the good in everything that I do, and try to surround myself with positive, people in my life.
Good for you.
And try not to be around the negatives. And I don't like people talking negative about people. If they're not here to defend themselves, why talk about them? Talk bad about them.
Right.
Everybody knows what happened, and everybody has their own right to believe whatever they want to believe, just like what's going on today in our world, society. Everybody's got a choice, to make good over bad, good over evil. Do the right thing. Pick the right thing. That's all I can say. And he always treated me well. So I have nothing but fond memories of Herb Abrams.
Solid message, my friend. Solid message. Pharaoh, send us out. What do you got?
Last question. Do you feel that he is underrated as far as his legacy goes? I'm sure he's been given attention with the Dark Side special. But do you feel that he's underrated? And is he a Hall of Famer to you, even though I can't picture Vince ever giving him his day in the sun? But is he...
I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer. He tried to live out his dream. He had a dream about being a wrestling promoter, and he made that happen. He made a dream about being on television and putting wrestling shows on television. He made that happen. So, and he was liked by wrestlers. Wrestlers, even, they wanted to be around Herb Abrams. I wanted to be around Herb Abrams. Everybody wanted to work for Herb Abrams, or else they wouldn't be there. And a lot of guys didn't take a lot of money to work for him either. Believe it or not, a lot of guys cut their pay in half to come work for Herb, just to say they're working and be on TV, so they could get other bookings with other promotions.
And he left his mark in the business, right?
He definitely left his mark in the wrestling entertainment business, and I could say that hands down. Is there a Hall of Fame for Herb? I don't know. I'm not that guy to judge that, or I'm not one to vote for the Hall of Fame. Or maybe I would put him in the Hall of Fame for trying, at least. He did try, and I give him credit for trying. A lot of people have tried and failed miserably worse than Herb, or stiffed a lot of the boys a lot worse than Herb. But at least he tried. At least he's got a legacy where he has been on television. He's had his own documentary, Dark Side of the Ring, about him. So I don't have one of me yet.
And his belts are made out of real material.
He definitely had a lot of belts. I can assure you of that. He had a lot of belts, from the midgets all the way through the women's, the midgets.
The midget championship, that was. Yeah.
We want to thank Sonny Beach for coming in, Sonny. We love having you in.
Thank you.
We could go for
pleasure.
Hours and hours and hours.
Never gets old with you guys.
And
it's fresh.
I got to tell you something too. Your positivity is incredible. I'm glad I can call you a friend. That's for sure.
I got a second chance in life with a heart attack, with the coronavirus. I'm just happy to be here. I love giving back to the fans, giving back to the wrestling community, seeing my brothers and sisters in the wrestling business. I enjoy that. I don't get to see a lot of them. I live in Long Island. A lot of guys live in Florida and all over the country. So when I do get to see the rest of the guys that are still with us, God bless Johnny Walker, Dusty Rhodes, all the guys that came before us and paved that road for us.
Yep.
You got to have respect for these guys, and I respect all of them. What they did for me, all the words of advice: Bruno Sammartino, Captain Lou, Johnny Valiant, Iron Mike Sharp. So many guys that are gone today. King Kong Bundy. You got to praise them, and not enough people do.
Well, hopefully the big event takes place this year, and you'll be with us on the gimmick table, which we love doing. Monte The Pharaoh can be seen on YouTube, Facebook Live on the Monte The Pharaoh page, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Channel 115 every Tuesday from 8:30 to 9 p.m. And for the early risers, Saturday, 6:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. We could also be caught on RTF Sports Network every Friday, their Anchor show from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. This Sunny Beach interview will be on tomorrow. This is Mike Monty.
This is the Pharaoh. Until next week, I hope you've had your Herbie cookies. Later.
Enjoy the Herbie cookies, boys.